Now, from Whitney Media, 1460 WVOX and WVOX.com, this is Westchester, Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow with Michael Dandry. Join Michael and his guests as they look at the heritage of the county and the issues facing Westchester today. And join in the conversation at 914-636-0110. Now, Westchester, Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. Here's Michael Dandry.
Okay, welcome to our listeners today on this beautiful Monday. I'm in the studio, and on the way out of the house, I put on a coat and a sweater. I'm so overdressed for the day. It's unbelievable. But anyway, welcome to Westchester, Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. And I say this at least once a month. I do try to find people who personify the title of the program. And I've hit an absolute, a winner today in Dr. Carole Weaver Linsner, who is here. And she's all about yesterday, today, and tomorrow. She's still at it. She's had tremendous effect on many, many people, actually, because of her career. And welcome back, Carole, to New Rochelle.
It's wonderful to be back.
Yes, where you've gotten your spurs, so to speak, at Iona College, the College of New Rochelle Hospital. You were reminding me about in the lobby. So it's wonderful having you here back to New Rochelle. So, and today's discussion is kind of like is going to range over a number of topics because a dynamic woman like Dr. Weaver Linsner, Carole, I'm going to say Carole.
Oh, please,
the broadcast, yes. Is also an author of a forthcoming book in December. It will be released in December. I think you mentioned that to me.
Yes.
Called Side Effects, The Art of Surviving Cancer. So we are going to get into a number of subjects, but definitely to the population out there who attended either Iona College or the College of New Rochelle over the years. They're going to know who Carole Weaver is because she's got, a personality that definitely rose to the fore in both institutions and interacted with lots and lots of people. Right, Carole?
Oh, yes. Well, and when you're a fundraiser,
right,
you must do that. Although I have to say I really respect the range of people from New Rochelle and other places here in Westchester.
Right.
Yeah, I started out teaching at Iona and then...
What subject, Carole?
English. My PhD is in English and really enjoyed it. But I rather quickly moved into writing for the president's office, and that put me in touch with the advancement team. They asked me to write a grant, and I had never done that. I didn't know what that was, to General Foods. And Rich Biondi, God bless his soul, was the person who took my first grant for $115,000. It was for a career center. That was his special interest. And lo and behold, 2 weeks later, they come back and they say, okay, you got it.
Right.
And I thought, my gosh, you write 5 pages and somebody gives you $115,000.
I like this job, right? I like that.
Absolutely. So I was off and away doing grants at Iona. I left the classroom, even turned down a tenure track position, if you can imagine. And soon
it becomes addictive.
Yes, it became.
I've written grants myself for the county of Westchester, so it does become addictive. Once you get, sometimes you don't get stuff.
Oh, yes.
But when you get, when the entity that you're working for gets the grant, it becomes, it's fantastic.
Whom did you present to?
For the Westchester County, for the Del Bello administration.
Oh, yes.
The enormous urban mass transportation administration grant to purchase new buses. So I know it. I'm sorry, I interrupted you, and I shouldn't.
No, not at all. Because one fundraiser to another, you want to find out what were your triumphs. There were many grants I submitted that didn't happen, but the big one was the one to New York State. We were talking about that earlier, where I had to go to Albany to pull together the Westchester delegation so that Iona would get $250,000 for a technology center. That was
Under construction, it was on the drawing boards at the time.
That's right, in the late 80s. And computers were just coming in really strong. So that was an enormous, happy event. But there were many others that didn't evolve. However, I stayed with it for quite a while, and especially with the STEP program, the Science and Technology Entry program, which had a lot of effect on minority students in the area. The science faculty would train high school science teachers to teach science, and they would have programs in the summer. I remember many of the high school students eventually went to medical school. It was really quite successful. So I have very happy memories.
Innovative, though, to have this summer. In other words,
yes.
I'm sorry, let's go back over that. You were mentioning training teachers to go into the schools. So the only time they were available was during the summer.
Right.
After their school year, school calendar.
Right. That's right. The chemistry, biology, and physics faculty at Iona worked on that, and they were terrific guys. So that was very fun for me, and I stayed with it until I
want to go back to something, though, Carole.
Sure.
You were an English teacher, and you were tapped to try your hand at writing grants, which is really public relations. In a wider context, in a targeted concept. But to me, it meant that somebody was taking a chance on you out of the parameters of your current job to see what you could do otherwise.
Right.
And for me, I mean, I've seen that in educational institutions. You have too. We've been part of large administrations. Isn't that the key to success of an organization?
Yes, I think so. Because I did not have any training, but I learned
correct
strategic writing. It is public relations, Michael. You're absolutely right. But you have to write the document which the potential funder is going to honor.
All I say is give that person a chance to do it.
Yes, that's right.
Out of their parameters, okay, out of their parenthesis careers.
Yes, I do think that was quite a compliment to me. But the woman who had done most of the grants at Iona was retiring. They needed somebody to replace her. So it was a real opportunity for me. I imagined myself teaching Shakespeare for the rest of my life. But I did have a motivation. My first husband left when I had a 2-month-old and a 3.5-year-old. So just teaching part-time was not enough for me to keep the house.
Yeah.
So the opportunity to go into a more professional, a full-time career in fundraising was very welcome.
Of course, under those circumstances.
Destiny conspired. And I was very happy at Iona. But then the offer of going to Mount Vernon Hospital came up, and that was a better salary. So I went there, and it was actually a student from Iona who got me that job. And then there was the combination of the two hospitals, Sound Shore, New Rochelle, exactly. And Mount Vernon, right?
Okay. As you can hear, our theme is coming on. We are going to take a minor break, and we'll be right back. Thank you. Okay, welcome back to our listeners. And in case you were not listening to the first segment of the program, the guest today is Dr. Carole Weaver Linsner, and we're welcoming Carole Weaver back to New Rochelle. She has long experiences on the Sound Shore, working for various major institutions, by the way, Iona College, the College of New Rochelle Hospital, Mount Vernon Hospital. And but according to her current 21st Century Business card, it reads the fact that she is affiliated with the National Medical Fellowships Organization in New York City. So I hope this hour is enough to get to that, and the fact that Carole, you're an author of Side Effects, The Art of Surviving Cancer, a new book that will be released soon in December. And basically, this is the Carole Weaver. This is your life show, I think. Let's start with, I'm big on themes. I need themes to get me going. So in the first segment, we talked about her experience at Iona College and CNR and how she was tapped to write grants, which led to a career change.
That's right. Absolutely. And so New Rochelle is truly a formative area for me because I worked at Iona for 12 years and I left to go to Mount Vernon Hospital and Sound Shore. But then I went to Long Island for a short time. But I did come back to the College of New Rochelle where I worked another 9 years as a fundraiser. I used most of my time for planned giving, which is giving in legacies and estates. But I did a lot of major gifts and, of course, a lot of writing, too. Michael knows that aspect of fundraising is very important. So the College of New Rochelle was a very important part of my professional life as well.
Absolutely. And in these years, you mentioned Rich Biondi at Iona was obviously an influence on you. At General Foods, he was at General Foods when you were writing the grant. Okay, that was successful. But Sister Dorothy Ann Kelly also,
that's right,
was she had all these wonderful ideas about expanding the school, which were predicated on fundraising.
That's right. The School of New Resources, absolutely, and the city, which was an extension of the CNR campus, and then the graduate school, and of course the nursing school. So yes, she had a lot to do with the expansion of
and
that.
The marketing effort. I remember the posters in the bus depots, all over Westchester County with
Wisdom for Life
campaign, and
right.
all of that.
Well, they're going through some tough times now, but I think that 112 years old institution that's done so much good should prevail, and I hope that will be the case.
Oh, we all do. It's a wonderful, wonderful institution, and it has influenced so many people. Now, let's go back. I neglected to ask you where you obtained your education. You were an English teacher. You have a doctorate in English.
Yes, I have a master's, which is not really necessary because I have a PhD, both from the University of Maryland, and my degree was in feminist criticism, one of the very first dissertations.
And what year is this, Carole?
This was 1977, and my field was Shakespeare and Ben Jonson.
Oh, wow.
A wonderful experience at the University of Maryland.
Have you kept up with that subject?
I have
as an avocation?
Published a few things, yes, but I'm no longer the Shakespearean teacher in the classroom that I was.
Right.
I do certainly follow literature and the book review, and I have a special spot in my heart for drama because that's what I wrote about in my dissertation.
Of course. And now you've come full circle as an author.
Yes.
Of Side Effects. And is this your first book?
It is my first book. It's a memoir. Oh my God, another memoir about surviving breast cancer. But this one has a twist. It focuses on the art that helped me survive the year of therapies, many operations, and so forth. So it's a picture book, partly, and it's a happy ending, and it's a love story about my relationship with my husband, then my boyfriend, and his home, which is full of art and books. He's an art appraiser. So I chose about 18 items, and it was my meditation or my experience of them, the joy they gave me, which I'm saying got me through. It was a kind of a cure. Not a new idea. The idea that joy brings health is underlying it. But I think, I hope people will enjoy the specific focus that I give to the sculpture, the paintings, and so forth.
That you were exposed
which got
to.
Me through, yes.
And it distracted you from the here and now of your health.
That is an excellent way of putting it, but it went even beyond distraction. It did remind me that these people worked very hard on these objects. It took me to another plane.
The transcendental aspect of human.
Yes, and also the here and now. It's an idea in holistic medicine and in Eastern medicine that you heal not only physically, but you heal with your emotions, what you think about, what you care about, and that's part of what side effects is about.
That's fascinating. I didn't know. Obviously, this is the first time I've seen the book. We talked about it on the telephone, but of course, having in front of me the art of surviving cancer. Now, it was fortuitous that your relationship was with someone who had, who had exposure, who had, artistic.
Yes.
Elements in their home available to you. So
it was a great stroke of luck, Michael. That's absolutely true. That I should, at the same time, almost the same time I met Ken, I got breast cancer. But his home became a great source of solace, and now I live in it in Rockland County. We have many thousands of books and many different kinds of art in the house. I only chose a few things. I was very subjective about what items I really like. There's a lot of Chinese art, but other
contemplative, very contemplative.
Yes, one of them, for example, when I was going through chemo, Mike, I really, really lost my appetite. Couldn't eat anything. Not everybody has this kind of side effect, but for me, I lost a lot of weight. I couldn't even look at food sometimes. Well, there's a statue of a certain Buddha in our home called Shakyamuni. Now, Shakyamuni is not your typical Buddha, the guy who sits there and looks well-fed and has his legs crossed.
Cross-legged.
This guy is bony. He's got a bony chest, bony hands, bony feet. And, in fact, his head is so bony that he's got a great big tumor on top. And the tumor is his brain. So he's an odd-looking fellow, and he's in the statue that I have, this wooden statue. He's walking. Well, Shakyamuni comforted me during that time when I couldn't eat. I used to just love to look at him.
The aura.
Because, the Buddha, that was when he was young. He decided that starving himself wasn't the way to enlightenment, so he changed his course of action.
Right.
But the Tibetans, the Buddhists, love to remember that period of his life when he was so skinny that his brain popped out of his head.
Right, when he was deprived of human nutrients or whatever.
Yes, and he did it himself. He thought that was the way to enlightenment. But it was comforting to me during that time.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating. It's almost self-hypnotic. Am I, overstepping that word in the context of what you just said?
I think it was a kind of meditation or trance sometime, but it wasn't like going to a museum and saying, oh boy, look at all this great art. I chose very specific things that spoke to me during the course of the chemo and the surgeries and so forth that made me feel better because they somehow paralleled what I was going through. So it was sometimes it was just the oddness of the object or the way that the artist saw his life. Hokusai, for example, is a very famous Japanese artist. You probably recognize him if you saw that wave. There's a picture of a big blue wave. But he was.
Where did you find that rendition of his work?
Well, it's everywhere. Actually,
okay, that was something
it's everywhere. But
that spoke to you.
It spoke to me. But the painting that I really talk about in the book, and have a picture of actually is a picture of the god of literature, who's actually a very warlike character, and his guard. Hokusai is a wonderful painter for people who are like me in their 70s, because he believed that he was getting better all the time. He said, I'm good this year, but next year I'm going to be even better.
Okay.
So speaking of lifelong learning.
Right. Hold that thought. We'll be right back.
Once again, here's Michael Dandry.
Okay, welcome back to to our audience today. And the subject on tap really is welcoming Carole Weaver Linsner, Dr. Carole Weaver Linsner, back to the city of New Rochelle, where she earned her spurs. I can say that again. I said that earlier before. In working with for Iona College and the College of New Rochelle Hospital, which is now morphed into a Montefiore affiliate with Mount Vernon Hospital, where she also worked. But this is a woman who has a lot of knowledge and a lot of experiences to impart to our audience, and it's not limited to just her academic career. She was an English teacher and then went into grant writing that benefited these major institutions, in addition to which, taking a deep breath here, she is an author of Side Effects, The Art of Surviving Cancer. And prior to the break, Carole, you were giving us the details of how you adapted art in your own life, which you attribute to your husband Ken, and the art that he had assembled in his life to utilize the inspiration. This is what I got from our discussion. The inspiration of that art to help you through a tremendous health crisis in your life at the time.
You've got it, Michael. Now you have to read the book.
I intend to.
Maybe you don't have to read the book.
I intend to. Carole, speak it directly into the mic according to our engineer.
We were just talking about the very famous Japanese 19th century artist Hokusai. And one of the things that I took from his paintings is to continue learning well into your 80s and 90s. He died at 89, and he said, if I could live a little longer, I would be absolutely perfect in my painting skills. So the Wisdom for Life that College of New Rochelle had as its advertising slogan for so long, Hokusai knew about that. He continued to learn. He continued to become better and better as he aged. So there were so many lovely lessons from many different artists, including the Puccini, who wrote Nessun Dorma. There's even a musical in the middle of this book that I suppose I should say, has as a dream. And that's a very funny chapter. It's called Tits, the Musical.
I see my engineers, that they noticed that word, on the air. They did.
It's a fun segment of the book.
Wow. You just covered it all as far as, again, adapting artwork and culture and music. You interjected the word music. I haven't had a chance to look at the book, so this is the first time I'm hearing about that. And during the break, I want to encourage you to talk about why you've dedicated the book to Ken, your husband.
Well, he's central to my surviving the breast cancer and especially the therapies, which was worse than the cancer in many ways. Ken is an extraordinary art appraiser and conservator. He repairs works of art. He went to medical school and never practiced on people. He said they drained him of his energy, sick people. So instead, he practices on artworks, anything that's broken or damaged, and he's a master at it. He was also a great believer that I would get well. And so during this year, he was my boyfriend, but at the end of this year, and I don't want to give away the ending, he became my husband. So it's a love story, as I said, as well as...
This is recounted in the book as well.
Yes. It is. So
the trajectory of your relationship and your illness and the culmination, it sounds like a movie to me, you know, or at least a reality series here, you know.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure to talk to Michael. We know so many people, getting away from the book for a moment.
Exactly.
One of the things we've been sharing with such pleasure is the old days of corporate giving. We have a mutual friend named Joan Gilbert, who
was no stranger to the president of this station because they were great friends.
Really?
Bill O'Shaughnessy, absolutely.
Oh, that's great to know, because when I was raising money for Iona, I thought Joan Gilbert walked on air because
she did. She represented Texaco, this enormous corporation.
Yes, and with her impeccable manner and beauty, she gave so many grants, small grants, to teachers, elementary school teachers who had to teach science. We would go to Texaco once a year, maybe 10 or 15 of us. The teachers would write little proposals on what they wanted to do, and they needed a certain item in order to complete their lessons. So we would go to Texaco, that gorgeous setting. Michael remembers this.
Absolutely.
And the teachers would come in with their faces shining, and Joan would give them a butterfly kit or a trip to the Museum of Natural History or tools to understand geology. And they would come away after a lovely brunch or a meal there in the lobby of Texaco, feeling so validated and so happy that Texaco had acknowledged their efforts to teach science to their students in the fall. So we were remembering that and wishing that there were more Joan Gilberts.
Absolutely.
To give.
And I'm sure that some of these, the gift the certificates or the grants encouraged people in ways that they never thought possible.
Oh, absolutely.
It related directly to having a job.
Yes, absolutely. The school couldn't give them the butterfly kit, but Texaco could.
Right.
So you can imagine the motivation that teacher had for her fourth graders to tell her about the monarch's journeys. And so it had such a ramifying effect.
It did.
A wonderful community effect.
It did.
So it's such a pleasure to be here to remember the New Rochelle pleasures. And definitely that was one.
Well, you're reminding me today now, on a sad note, George Delaney, the former vice president of Con Edison in the New York metropolitan region, passed away and the other day. And I'm remembering that among his many affiliations was I guess he was chairman of the Westchester County Association, which included Texaco and Citibank and General Foods and a lot of the people that you and I dealt with as far as grant writing is concerned. Okay. And it was just a wonderful time because this organization called the Westchester County Association existed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you and I didn't know anybody, and I would go to, I'm sure you went to some of those luncheons and you got to meet people, person to person.
Yes. Well, now isn't the WBE taking that?
Westchester, yes. There are two. The county association still exists, but then there's the business association also. It's expanded, it's different, and it's vital. I mean, it's just as it has just an important role to play in Westchester as these organizations ever did. But for you and I in that era, it was almost easier.
Yes. Yes.
Because if you felt equal to meeting these people and talking to them, right, Carole?
Yes.
I mean, that's a career advancement we both made, right?
That's right.
That's right. It's not easy to walk into one of these great corporations and sit down with the vice president for government and community relations. It's just not. You have to be of a certain mettle, METTLE.
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
This is wonderful.
Now, so much of it is between us is the emails and the technology. that people in corporations lean on more, it seems to me. I'm now working part-time for an organization in the city.
Yes, I want to get into that too, which intrigued me to no end, the National Medical Fellowships Program.
Right. And I try hard to use the the one-on-one, the face-to-face skills of fundraising. I only work 1 or 2 days a week as a consultant there. National Medical Fellowships has been around for 70 years, and they raise money for minorities going to medical school. And what I do is I do a variety of things, but I often coach the students who receive grants or stipends for what they do in the medical field. When they present at galas or at seminars, I teach them how to present in 5 minutes and compellingly.
Well, they have the right person.
Well,
no, you bring a lifelong experience in how to do this. And there's our theme. We are taking a little bit of a break. Stay tuned. Okay, welcome back to Westchester Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. And the subject on tap today is really the life and times of Carole Weaver Linsner.
You're so kind, Michael.
In all its wonderful permutations, from the college teacher to author now, and of side effects, the art of surviving cancer, and when we last we went to the break, Carole was telling us her work with the National Medical Fellowships, and go over back. Let's resume that discussion because it's important.
Yes.
And also, let's not forget is there a website for the book?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, give that first, and then we'll talk about the fellowships.
Amazon.com, the second week in December, will have side effects available for sale. Simply go on and look under it's. I use Carole Weaver as the title, as my authorial name. So you can look under Weaver or look under side effects, and it will bring you to the place where you can purchase it.
Okay, and back to the National Medical Fellowships work that you're doing as a consultant 2 days a week in Manhattan, as I think you had related to us before the break. And how do you select the individuals for these potential fellowships?
Well, Dr. Franklin McLean in 1946 decided that the population did not look like the number of doctors around. So he started these scholarships for black students, in particular in medical school, and then expanded it to Hispanic students as well. What happens is we give a variety of financial support, mostly to people who are having a difficult time with the tremendous costs of medical school. It's $250,000, even if you have some support from family. And if you come from a poor city, urban situation, right? It's impossible. So though the grants are not enormous, they make a big difference. The students apply for them in their second or third years. They have to be in medical school at the time, and we award them. We also have opportunities for them to use their medical skills in primary care situations where doctors are so overwhelmed, and they'll go there in the summertime and work in Alabama, for example, and they'll get $7,500. We have emergency funds when a student is in his fourth year and his wife loses her job. We can step in and save that student from losing his position as he searches for his residency requirement. There are many things that National Medical Fellowships do, and to support our minority students so that they can change the face of medicine, as our mission is. So I help with the galas. I still write for in fundraising contexts, and I'm happy to do that. And I coach the students who go to these galas. Some of them are so poor they don't even have a proper jacket to wear. It's a very moving process to take these hardworking students in their third and fourth years and teach them how to present to an audience of 200 doctors, to tell them about their story and what they did with the stipend or the scholarship they received. So I'm really...
You're a life coach? You're kind of like a life coach for them in this particular aspect of their lives. Anyway.
Right. They are very grateful. Doctors do need some training in how to present either their scientific or research background, or sometimes when they are asking for money from a big pharmaceutical company, they need to be persuasive. So, yes, it's not I wouldn't presume to be a life coach, but I'm trying to give them another skill very quickly that they can use in their careers, something to help them present persuasively.
And how does one find the fellowship program to apply to?
Oh, nmfonline.org. N as in National Medical Fellowship. nmfonline.org is a wonderful website. It's quite commodious. It'll tell you how to give, what the next events are, and how to apply for their various programs. So nmfonline.org. And thank you so much, Michael.
Basically, this is a national program that someone can tie into. And now I assume that, let's say a person going from college into medical school, they're going to rely on their senior advisors to know about the fellowships, and it's in a grant directory of some kind.
Well, the deans of diversity or the assistant deans of diversity should know about us, but the student can also take the initiative. They have to be in medical school and they have to be American citizens, but they can apply. They can call up and ask about the process of applying. We have 30,000 alums over the last 7 years.
I was going to get into numbers, yes. and how many fellowships ongoing now, roughly?
I think we've given out about 1 million this year. I'm not sure about the numbers. It's in the hundreds, though. But we also have other programs in addition to the scholarships, which can give financial support to students if they're willing to travel in the summer. And we even had an African program where we would take students, take them to Kenya, for example, or Uganda, and they would be there to help doctors who may be the only doctor in 10,000 people.
Well, Carole Weaver, we started out talking about your position here at Ione as a teacher of English, and now you've come full circle to being a coach and a supporter of students in medical schools.
Yes.
There's a link here,
yes.
That's come around in a way that's really wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time out. And I know you have to go into the city, I think. Don't you have meetings in the city today?
Yes.
Thank you, Carole Weaver Linsner. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.